It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That, of course, is the voice of Zak Stevens. That's his new band. It is called Archon Angel, and the name of the album is Fallen. And on the line right now, we have the lead vocalist of Archon Angel. That is the one and the only Mr. Zak Stevens. Zak, how you doing, man?
Good. How you doing, Chris? Thanks, man.
Good, man. Dude, it is great to speak to you once again. Love the new project. It is, it's funny because I know for years and years while you've been pushing and building Circle to Circle, every interview pretty much that you did had, what's going on with Sabotage? Where's the Sabotage reunion? Where's the Sabotage reunion? And now here you are doing a project that very much, I don't want to say it's a Sabotage knockoff as much as it kind of has the spirit of Sabotage to it. It's a great project, and any Sabotage fan will love it. And, so let's start there, man. Congratulations on, giving the fans what they want.
I appreciate that. We're, the album, we hear that it has a little bit of the spirit of Sabotage, but it's got the spirit of a lot of great, heavy metal, through the years and stuff like that. I can probably pick out like 8 or 9 bands in it. Sure. So it's really far and beyond, the Sabotage spirit, but we just wanted to celebrate what that style of music is. And, Archon Angel, this is, something that was born of the Frontiers Records. I mean, they knew that I had worked with Aldo Lonobile, the producer of this album, and we worked together a couple of times before. He produced Timo Tolkki's Avalon.
Right, Return to Avalon.
That's right. So the songs that I sang on that, I was working with Aldo, kind of on the producing end, and he plays guitar and writes songs. And, they saw that we worked well together. So Frontiers Records kind of came up with the idea, hey, why don't you guys do an album? And they, ran it by Aldo, and he said, that's cool, because we just work really fast and good. We don't have to be in the same country to do it. Right. We work efficiently in different countries together, with the age of recording and all the software and, the electronics to the point where it is, you don't have to really even be in the same continent to do great albums together. So they kind of could see what was going on. So that's how, Archon Angel was, invented. So I didn't even, it's funny, these days you can have bands and you don't even know who's in the band. I mean, I met the guys in the band before we played our first shows on 70,000 Tons of Metal.
Okay.
This cruise ship we just got off of. And that was from, I think, January 5th through the 11th.
Okay.
We played 2 shows on there, along with 60 other metal bands. Complete mayhem. Metalheads running everywhere. I've done 3 of them. I did this was number 10. So I've done 2, 4, and 10.
Okay.
And I did the other 2 with Circle to Circle, my last band. So we've had a lot of experience with it and everything, and it's always presents its own challenges with the times you have to play. And one of our shows was 10 o'clock in the morning on the pool deck, and we had a windstorm the night before, so it was 52 knot continuous winds on stage. At one point in my monitor mix, I had more wind coming through the various mics than I had of probably any other instrument. So that was kind of interesting. So I'd never had that before. We also played the first big show right after the ship took off. So you feel the props kick in, and it feels like an earthquake in those big ships when they first start out and they have to kick the engines in and the props first start turning.
Sure.
So I'm like, are we having is that a low end rumble in sound check, or is that the engines? But it was the engines cranking up. But so we had I think we had like the 3rd highest turnout or something like that, 2nd or 3rd highest turnout of all the shows. They kind of like keep track of how many people come to the various locations, because there's like 7 different places to play. But these days we got together for a rehearsal in Miami because it left out of Fort Lauderdale port. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time we met everybody. I mean, I had talked to everybody online and discussed stuff with each guy as they're playing their tracks on the album. But, that's just crazy these days where you can, you meet everybody the day before, you have a long rehearsal and you get on the ship and play the show the next evening. So it's like, so we've just really just started.
Sure.
And we have a little tour, mini tour that we booked for Greece and going to Cyprus and also stopping over at Istanbul, Turkey. That's in the works right now. I'm sure they've already announced some of the dates because everything has been kicked off on that. And that's for probably the April 1 through the 15th. So it's just a little mini tour. I haven't played Greece in probably 8 or 9 years. So it's about time to get back over there.
Sure.
So, you know, we're just kind of just starting out and we'll see how it goes.
No kidding, man. Well, I'm curious for you, Zak, as somebody that has done this for a long time, are you comfortable doing, you know, especially, I mean, that's kind of an odd situation to meet your band the day before you play. And, you know, there's definitely something to be said about knowing your band and knowing their little idiosyncrasies for how they play on stage and where they stand and where they move and, you know, knowing cues and whatnot. Was that a comfortable situation to go into, you know, pretty much blind? Well,
you know, when you've been performing a long time, you know, I don't really think about the semantics of the stage and stuff like that. You know, there might have been a few little things, but we didn't really worry about where everybody was going. Everybody kind of like has their spot. I'm pretty much working the middle of the stage and, you know, stuff like that. I mean, so for the most part, logistics was no problem. We kind of had a little meeting beforehand saying, hey, here's where I'm going to be, you know, working. And you guys kind of like hold your, you know, positions. And, you know, you kind of just, like you said, you just got to take it one step at a time. I mean, we learned a lot.
Sure.
We had a lot of adjustments that we've made since even the first two shows because, you know, there's a whole lot of things that have to happen. And if you have a band together like 10 years, you don't have any of that. It's all seasoned and it's all worked in. So obviously, yeah, we're going to have a lot of adjustments to make. And who knows? It might look different. You know, who knows? I mean, within a year or two, you might already even have lineup stuff, you know, going on. So who knows? Right now, everything's good. So everybody's just, you know, working on the points that we had for improvement. You know, it's just like a baby. It's just been born. So there's a wealth of things to improve. But we had some good luck. We knew we were going to have a little bit of luck, you know, going into a situation like that. So we did. We had some decent luck and people, you know, the audience, and we got some great feedback and it was well received. But, you know, yeah, I mean, I could probably name 90 things I'd like to improve already. So, you know, it is what it is, you know, we're just going to move along and do the best we can and, you know, go places that, you know, the band wants to go, like this little, you know, mini tour of the Mediterranean.
Sure.
And, you know, let the music take you where it will. But the best thing is that everybody seems to like the stuff, you know, so far.
Oh, yeah.
So we're just going to keep on hammering out the live shows and stay busy. You know, that's just what we're trying to do at this point. And you just got to take it one step at a time.
Sure. Now, Zak, you obviously spent the last decade plus with Circle to Circle, and you know, being honest, Circle to Circle in most people's minds is Zak Stevens. You know, I mean, because you always did all the promotion for it. You are the you know, the centerpiece of it. Was there a temptation with this, even though it's new people, and you know, what was there a temptation to continue calling this Circle to Circle since it's a brand name that you had built up for a decade?
No, not really. Circle to Circle had its own, you know, family type situation going on. We had turnover in the lineup, just like a lot of bands. We probably could have been more, but maybe it could have been less. But it wasn't extraordinary. So what we did, we had a little writer team, me and Mitch, the bassist, Mitch Stewart. And so, you know, that right there is kind of the way that was going in the later years. It lasted 13 years and 7 albums. It could still do something. We don't know. It's kind of just dormant right now.
Okay.
just, if a certain opportunity comes up, maybe, but things run their course. And in my mind, it had its time. 13 years and 7 albums isn't too bad.
No.
To stay out there, to stay busy. It was definitely my thing. There's no doubt about it. And you could have probably just called it Zak Stevens, but but it had its own, membership, and it had its own, writing team within the band. So that one would stay there. I didn't really think about any kind of carryover from Circle to Circle into Archon Angel. This has definitely got a lot more writers, a bigger team, which is something that we wanted. We wanted a great team effort, and we would bring in outside writers. There are a few outside writers that came in Italy, and my wife, Catherine, as well, doing lyrics and coming up with a lot of conceptual stuff. So we've expanded the team. Right. It's kind of a family thing in my house. Because both me and my wife have a lot of input into Archon Angel and have a lot of that we deliver to the team. It's probably, if you expand it to writers, you probably have a team of 9 or 10 that's working on Archon Angel, because we have the band of 6. We generally travel with 6. Sometimes it might be 5, depending on the limitations of a tour, or the number of that a promoter can handle. So we have a band that can either be 6 or 5 right now, depending on the situation. I think it might be 5 going into Greece, because that's you have a situation where the promoter can handle a certain amount, so it looks like it's going to be that, but we know that we've got members that are that one can be go somewhere one time and not go the next. And then we could switch off instruments. One of the guitarists could be playing bass. So we're flexible because we're new, and you have to be flexible, but it's fine. Everything gets done. We have 2 keyboard players that are possible that play with us. We may be seeing the second one as we go into Greece, because Alessandro might be busy because he plays with Hardline. So a keyboard player in Hardline and, Archon Angel. So that's all right. Everybody's got to stay busy. And that's totally cool. So, we're just real flexible right now, but we have a, expanded team. So to me, Archon Angel is a complete different new entity because of that team. And for that reason, I would not, and heck, we've thought about saying, why don't we just call it Zak Stevens? Well, the problem with that is my musical taste and what I might want to do on a pure solo record could be widely different than just metal. So that's why I didn't call it the Zak Stevens project, because, I would have to really sit. I haven't done a pure Zak Stevens album yet for that reason, because I just haven't had time to sit and say, gosh, what would this thing have on it? It's certainly going to have elements of metal. It's going to have elements of hard rock. It may have some newer type sounds. Who knows? Because I like so much wild new stuff out there and old stuff, and it's crazy. But that's probably the reason it hasn't been called. That was probably the reason that Circle Circle or Archon Angel is not called Zak Stevens, because these bands are going to have a specific sound. So, and the sounds that I would like to have on my solo record could be that plus maybe 4 others. So it could be a wide expansion of things on an album, but I'm not really worried about it right now. That's going to come eventually, but we'll just have to see where life takes us for the next 4 or 5 years, I think.
No question. Well, you mentioned Alessandro, and obviously he is in Hardline as well, and he works with you, and he seemingly works with everybody else. It's like I hear this guy's name with just about everybody I talk to. What is it about him? Is there just like a different level creativity or something with him that everybody is so in line to work with him?
Well, yeah, he has a unique, skill set. He writes good stuff, and he's a great guy. He's, we said we're only going to work with people who just, are really good, nice, generally nice people who don't really have a lot of hangups and no drama. No divas. and he's just a great guy. You know, people
Right.
want to work with him. He's just so funny. He's so nice to me. He strikes me as hilarious because, like, everybody knows me. I like to laugh all the time, and I make jokes about everybody, and just talk about everybody, and everybody's a victim around me. So, you know, he's just perfect for that. You know what I mean? I mean, not somebody to make fun of. I'm not
Right.
saying that, but we joke about each other and any little thing, and he's just so nice and courteous and kind that he just makes you smile. When I'm talking about him right now, I'm actually smiling because the guy is so absolutely nice. And that works in the business.
Sure.
People want to work with people who are easy to work with, talented, can write some. He writes, he plays great, he sings some, which is great in my book. I want singers around me, because the stuff I write usually requires 2 or 3 singers.
Sure.
Many times 2, all the time a couple, and many times 3. And if I could have 4, after being in TSO and, all the Sabotage, stuff that we
Right.
did through the years with counterpoint vocals and me working in a band with 10 singers, of course, I'm looking around going, more singers, deliver them in on a silver platter.
Right.
So it's always welcome. So, yeah, just a lot of things with Alessandro.
No question. Well, you mentioned TSO, and obviously TSO has become such I'll say a monster, but in the nicest way possible. It has just become this massive thing. When it started, when it branched out of Sabotage and became what it has become, before it became what it has become. What did you really think that it was going to be this big thing, or was it just another project that became something huge, or where did you see it as somebody that has obviously been in both projects?
Yeah, we had the funny thing is the whole thing started from like an accidental Christmas hit that
Right.
occurred on the Sabotage album, Dead Winter Dead.
Right.
That is Christmas Eve, Sarajevo 12/24.
Right.
The song everybody knows, and that became our staple, and we play it 2 times a night, one time and then a reprise of the song the second time. So when we saw all that happening, we knew that 2 things. Number one, we didn't really have a follow-up because the only thing you're going to have, there's not another Christmas song on that album, and it's really a story about the breakup of the former, Yugoslavia,
Right.
into like 9 countries. So there's a story there, and there's stories within stories, and sadness and intrigue and all that, but it's not totally dedicated to Christmas. So that was the first thing that we discussed with Paul O'Neill when that happened was, well, we can't follow it up with a rock song with John and Zak singing. So we're pretty much going to have to go a different direction. So he said, give me a couple of weeks and I'll come up with something. Well, he came back and said, I got something, Trans-Siberianorchestra. And I said, it's a long title. Everybody's going to look at it and go, that's horrible. Boo. The naysayers when somebody comes up with a visionary like Paul O'Neill comes up with something. But we had seen him win on so many occasions that I don't think people question it by then.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm seeing this. And it gives us an avenue to come out with that Christmas single the next year in 97, which eventually became Christmas Eve and Other Stories. And then put it on there and then surround it by other cool Christmas songs. And I'm like, obviously that's what you have to do. So I thought that it was something that had huge potential even back in 97. And I sang backup vocals on it. We had to bring in all kind of new people because you had to be a little careful not to be wanting to say, hey, I want to sing 3 songs. Then it just becomes Sabotage, So you had to everybody had to kind of realize, especially the vocalists, that we have to step back a little bit and let this thing, become something different. That was kind of one of the harder parts, but that's just one of those truths of the business. So, but I still got to sneak in there and, geez, I basically sang something on almost every record, if not a lead track, like on Beethoven's Last Night.
Right.
So, and that was in 2000. So you're going back 20 years now. It just seems unreal, but yeah, it has become a monster because it found a way to attract fans of all ages. When you look out there,
Sure.
you've got everybody from if they can drag their 5-year-old and put earmuffs on them, so it won't be too loud, all the way to people in their 70s. And, even the Sabotage fan base, if you got into Sabotage when I did in the mid 80s, you're looking at mid 50s age range right there. So that's our main base for Sabotage. So you have those as making up a subset of the overall fan base. So it is quite strange that it just grew to something so big. It is great for the guys a great storyteller for the guys who are the original 6.
Sure.
Sabotage guys that were coming along at the time. There were members before that, but during the TSO era, there's mainly we've got Al Petrelli, Johnny Lee Middleton, who play in the West Band.
Right.
Then we've got myself, Jeff Plate, and Chris Caffrey of the original 6 in the East Band. And John, he doesn't tour with any of the bands, but he's there, approving approving everything to do with the music. He's still on the leadership team, which now is probably 6 or 7 people in a committee rather than just one, which was Paul O'Neill making all the decisions.
Sure.
He touched everything. He was like a guy who had his hands on everything and would make pretty much all the final decisions. But unfortunately, when he passed away, I think they did it right by taking it to a committee of probably upwards of 6 to 10 people. When you talk about management people thrown in there, on the round table,
sure,
so to speak. So, and I especially give credit to Ireland, O'Neill, Paul O'Neill's daughter, who's about, I don't know, maybe a month. Yeah, not quite a month older than my oldest daughter.
Okay.
They were born within a month of each other. I have 2 daughters, Cassidy, who's 22, who's about the same age as Ireland. They were born right there together. So that was always me and Paul's thing was, hey, our first kids were born within like 3 weeks of each other. Yeah, boom, fist bump.
Right.
So then I have another one came around 6 years later, Zoe. She's 16. But a family that still knows everybody. Ireland knows my kids.
Sure.
Always, especially my youngest one, because their paths crossed a little more, believe it or not. So Ireland is a huge part of the leadership of TSO at 22 years old.
Wow.
I mean, a scholar beyond all imagine. Basically had a college degree the minute she graduated from high school.
Sure.
Because she jumped ahead. And so you're talking about a lot of knowledgeable and a lot of smart, people around the industry and around the band, that we invite, whether it be the booking agents, the promoters we work with, Live Nation.
Sure.
There are several more. There are others besides that. But when you look at that whole team, that's another example of a great team that requires a huge team,
right,
to work together in synchrony, and it's a well-oiled machine. But it took the whole 21 years to get it this well-oiled. I mean, in the beginning, you were asking the question, did you think it would, do anything? And then the first couple of years we toured was just little theaters,
right? And
everybody we didn't know. You look at the guys, especially, the stories that Caffrey tells, and Jeff Plate, the drummer who's been in the East for every show they ever played.
Sure.
21 years coming from Sabotage. And then, the stories that he will tell about the earlier saying, God, we didn't even know if we were going to be able to finish the tour or if they were going to meet payroll, or
right.
And it was real scary. But then you stick with it and you just keep working hard and put out those records, and have something to play. Mm-hmm. So now we don't have to make, TSO probably doesn't really have to make any more records. There's so much material and people just, like it. But I think there's a yearning to do another one.
Sure.
We'll have to see how that comes out, how that plays out. I'm not really sure, what the decisions are on that, but,
sure.
But there's always the ability to do it,
right.
And we'll see how it goes, but it's just phenomenal when you look at all the moving parts that have to come together for that, that tour. The hardest part of the year, all those trucks, 19
sure.
to 23, 53-foot semis that's just for one company. we have the two bands.
Yeah.
And we go into 3, because I don't know if you heard the latest announcement that we are adding a 3rd band to kind of take care of that middle of the country a little bit more.
Gosh, jeez.
The part that we can't quite encompass with the band being on the east, with the east band concentrating on that east coast and the west band being out there way west, there's that piece in the middle,
right,
that we could do a better job at. Now we're going to see for the first time that we can take that on, so it's interesting,
Wow.
Now you have to watch that thing unfold and all the decisions made with that. But, I don't think I think the bands will remain intact. In other words, the new one's just going to be all new people. I don't think they're going to be taking from the east and, taking and piecemealing everybody around and,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Sorting stuff like boxes of candy from the east and west band.
Right.
That's from what I understand. I don't know too much, but I think it's just going to be all new. But we just heard that, so that's been announced.
Right.
It's not secret, but so now 3 well-oiled machines,
Wow.
and that's a lot moving around in the wintertime. So you always hope for the best.
Well, it's just fascinating that, one song, and it literally, like you said, it stemmed from one song, and one song literally spawned what is arguably the biggest band in the world on some level. When you think about it, there's 2 right now, 2 now going in 3 bands, and let's face it, a lot of the cities that you play like here in Cleveland, you play 2 nights and you play 2 shows in 2 nights. 2 shows each night in 2 nights, because there's that kind of a demand. It really is amazing.
Yeah, 2 shows on most days for sure.
Yeah.
Which is taxing, to be,
Sure.
We look at it like we got to cross the finish line. The people, the band members,
Right.
We're like, God, they're at the end. The schedule alone, the biggest thing that you're fighting for is sleep.
Right.
Because of the, just the amount of, every day, boom, boom, a new city and 2 shows most days. And, it's just you got to kind of figure out how to, manage that whole thing personally, and whatever works for you, works for you. I mean, everybody's got a personal schedule, but it has to be something that, especially for singers, that includes sleep. That's the most important thing for singers.
Right.
Is actually sleep and some vocal rest and, doing the smart thing, especially when you get older like me. We got people in their 20s. We got singers in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Right.
So the older ones, we have to be even more regimented.
Sure.
Because can't go fooling around and then you wind up missing shows because you get ill, and we're already exposed to tons of people. We have the signing lines.
Right.
So you have to be, you can't really control all that when it comes to catching some disease agent, but
right.
You do the best you can, and you use, the hand hygiene and, everything like that. And you do hope for the best. We have to, and again, you better have an element of luck in that part too.
Right.
We need a lot of luck in the show business, and show business, we're always hoping for a lot of luck, but you need talent and you need luck.
No
and
question.
that you also need it in the business.
Sure.
So, it's crazy. But you're right. It probably is the biggest entity, and now probably absolutely. And I saw where we finished number 1 in the overall gross, the gross revenue.
Yeah.
For a tour of 2019. I think we actually are number 1. For a while last year, KISS took us over because they're doing the
Sure,
the end of the road.
Right.
So I think but since we had more shows, it looks like if you have 2 bands doing 60 shows, which is about what we did in about a month and a half, you put that together, that's 120.
Yeah.
So if you play 120 arena shows, another number I saw was you now have the most arena shows, that was even performed in America.
Right.
So you think about tours are kind of becoming more efficient and scaling down, because I was kind of surprised by that. If you have 120 arena shows, that puts you at most shows. And we also had most you would call it, I guess, most increase in revenue over the prior year.
Right.
So it was most improved revenue. They had a spot in there.
Jeez.
If I'm not mistaken. Now, I might be a little off on some numbers, but I'm pretty sure that we actually we also gained the most from last year's total revenue to this, from 2018 to 2019. So they found a way to, without raising ticket prices too much, to do that, which is pretty amazing. I just look inside at a lot of these numbers and I'm like, this is ridiculous. And the fact that I'm in the band.
Right. That's always
I go, whoa.
That's like the best part is that you're a part of it. You literally, dude, the last time I saw you perform with Sabotage was at Peabody's Down Under, which held like 300 people. And now you're a part of the biggest touring entity in the world. It's amazing and it's awesome. And, we could definitely talk about it all day long, but I know you have other interviews to do. So why don't we do this, Zach? Why don't we wrap up with something new from Archon Angel? The name of the album, once again, is called Fallen. It is a great release if you are a fan of Zak's or Sabotage or Circle to Circle, any of it. I mean, it's very recognizable when you hear Zak's voice. So, Zak, why don't you pick a song and maybe tell us a quick story about it to wrap it up?
All right. Let's go with the second single that was released here recently. It's called Rise.
Okay.
And this is just a sneak that they brought out a week or so ago to say that we're going to open up downloads, so you can actually download a single.
Okay.
So, because the release is on Valentine's Day. So anybody who has a date or not, you should be presenting, go get the album first and then present it. No, I'm just kidding. But, but it's an interesting release date. But this was one that came out, prior, so you can start download. So the song is Rise, and it's sort of a concept album in a lot of respects. You have the Archon, who back in Greek Gnosticism, he's the go-between. He's the medium between the people of Earth and the gods. If the people on Earth wanted to have anything translated to the gods, you had to have this Archon. Okay? Mm-hmm. So he's sort of the main character of the concept here that's given us lyrical content and probably will take us into subsequent records. But so we have a little bit of a concept. Cool. We have the guy who's chosen was kind of unlikely, because you're talking about a rich businessman who also basically had a little bit of he lived a life of excess, which also unfortunately included alcohol and drugs and stuff. Mm-hmm. So he's a rich businessman, but he's got a substance abuse problem, and he's riding around in limos and trying to get to meetings and stuff, and then gets called upon by the gods. Say, you are the Archon. We have special missions for you to save the people of Earth and protect them from certain bad things that are going to happen. So he's like, what, me? I don't want to do that.
Right.
I don't want to have any part of it. Sorry. Unfortunately, you don't have a choice. So I'm imagining Shazam here. If you were going way back to when Billy is talking to the, so it's ridiculous. But anyway, so let's say you've got this Billy type character, mm-hmm. and he's looking up at the mentors or whatever, the stone gods up there, and they're going, well, you have the special powers we need, and nobody else does, but you don't really know what those are yet, but we're going to sort of groom you in so you can protect the Earth. He's like, forget it. Well, sorry, you don't have a choice. This song represents when he's acceptance. He's accepted the role now. He realizes you can't get out of it. You're cleaning up. You're going to have to, you're going to have to clean up your lifestyle, and you're going to have to rise to the occasion. And this is the process where he's actually rising to the occasion. So that's what this song's about. All
right. Well, let's check it out right now. It is Rise. It's Archon Angel right here on your Classic Metal Show.